The grainy feed flickered to life on the billionaire's laptop screen, revealing not the illicit affair he dreaded, but two women tangled in a desperate embrace, their whispers of forever cutting through the static like a knife. Richard Hale's finger hovered over the power button, his empire of steel and silicon suddenly feeling like ash in his mouth, as the words, "I can't lose you," escaped his daughter's lips. Not to a man, but to the woman he'd never even met. In that instant, the man who'd built fortunes on surveillance realized he'd captured something far more dangerous. The unbreakable truth of love. Emery Hale slammed the villa door behind her, the echo ricocheting off the terracotta walls of the Andalusian estate like a gunshot. Her heart pounded as she stormed through the sun-baked courtyard, the scent of olive groves and salt air doing nothing to soothe the storm raging inside her. At 25, she'd inherited her father's sharp jawline and unyielding determination, but tonight, those traits felt like curses, reminders of the man who just shattered her world with a single unforgiving question. Who is she? It had started innocently enough, or so she'd thought. 6 months ago, Richard Hale, the self-made titan of Hale-Tech Industries, had insisted on upgrading the family villa in Marbella. Security's everything in this day and age, he'd grumbled over video call from his Manhattan penthouse, his voice crackling with that trademark blend of affection and control. Emery, ever the dutiful daughter, had waved it off. She'd been living in Spain for 2 years now, escaping the cutthroat boardrooms of New York for the slower rhythm of the Costa del Sol, painting sunsets, sipping sangria at beachside cafes, and most importantly, falling in love. Briella Navarro was the kind of woman who made the world feel like a canvas waiting for color. 24, with olive skin that glowed under the Spanish sun and curls that cascaded like midnight waves. She ran a small artisan jewelry shop in the old town's labyrinthine streets. They'd met at a local art festival, Emery sketching the crowd while Briella hawked her handmade silver cuffs, etched with symbols of forgotten myths. One shared laugh over a spilled glass of Tinto de Verano, and the spark ignited, a quiet, consuming fire that neither could ignore. But secrets have a way of festering in paradise. Emery's phone buzzed incessantly as she fled toward the cliffs overlooking the Mediterranean, the waves crashing below like her fracturing resolve. She ignored it, her mind replaying the dinner that had unraveled everything. Richard had flown in unannounced, his private jet slicing through the azure sky like an accusation. Over paella and Rioja, he'd been his usual self, charming anecdotes about acquisitions, probing questions about her settling down. Then as dessert arrived, he'd leaned forward, eyes like polished steel. "Emery, I've seen the footage. From the camera in your room. Tell me about this friend of yours." The word friend had landed like a slap. Emery's fork clattered against the plate, her face draining of color. "What footage? Dad, what the hell did you do?" He'd shifted uncomfortably, the great Richard Hale, Forbes' king of surveillance, suddenly small. "It was for your protection. After that break-in last year, I had the system installed everywhere. I didn't mean to. You spied on me." Emery's voice had cracked, raw and accusing. "In my own home? God, Dad, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not one of your assets to monitor." The argument escalated in hushed tones, mindful of the staff, but the damage was done. Richard had confessed it all. The hidden camera in the antique clock on her mantel, feeding live to his secure server back in the States. He'd reviewed the tapes after a nagging parental instinct, expecting late-night parties or risky flings. Instead, he'd stumbled upon Emery and Briella, nights of whispered confessions, gentle touches that spoke volumes, mornings where they'd linger in bed, tracing maps of dreams on each other's skin. "I thought, maybe it was a phase," he'd stammered, his face ashen. "Or worse, someone taking advantage. But Emery, she's a woman. This isn't." "Isn't what?" Emery had shot back, tears burning. "Normal? Real. Dad, her name is Briella, and she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And you violated us both to play God." She'd bolted then, grabbing her keys and leaving him alone with the remnants of their meal. Now, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sea in fiery oranges, Emery collapsed onto a weathered bench overlooking the cove. The wind whipped her auburn waves across her freckled cheeks, and she buried her face in her hands. How could she explain this to Briella, the woman who'd taught her to dance under street lamps, to trust again after years of her father's shadow? Briella, with her infectious laugh and steady gaze, deserved better than this intrusion. A billionaire's paranoia turning their sanctuary into a stage. Her phone lit up again. A text from Briella. "Mi amor, where are you? Dinner's getting cold, and the stars are waiting for us." Emery's chest tightened. She typed back, fingers trembling. "Be there soon. Need to breathe. Love you." Across the sea in the glittering canyons of Los Angeles, Richard Hale paced his study, the laptop still open to that frozen frame. His daughter and this stranger, locked in a gaze that mirrored the one he'd once shared with Emery's mother, gone too soon to cancer. He'd built his fortune on eyes in the sky, drones over war zones, smart homes that whispered secrets to their owners. But this was personal, a betrayal of the girl he'd raised single-handedly after Sarah's death. Emery had always been his anchor, brilliant, resilient, the heir to his legacy. And now this revelation threatened to upend it all. He poured a scotch, neat, and sank into his leather chair. The footage played in his mind. Not the salacious scenes he'd feared, but something achingly tender. Briella reading poetry aloud in lilting Spanish, Emery sketching her profile by candlelight. Laughter that filled the room like sunlight. It wasn't deviance, it was devotion. And in spying he'd poisoned it. A knock at the door. His assistant Elena, ever efficient. "Sir, the jet's fueled. Back to Marbella." Richard nodded, but his eyes were distant. "Yes. And Elena. Find out everything about Briella Navarro. Discreetly." As the Gulf Stream hummed toward the Iberian Peninsula, Richard wrestled with the man he'd become. Protector or prison warden? He thought of Sarah, her final words in that sterile hospital room. "Let her fly, Rich. Don't clip her wings." Had he? The scotch burned, but not as much as the regret. Emery arrived at Briella's tiny apartment above the jewelry shop as twilight deepened the alleyways. The door swung open before she could knock, Briella's arms enveloping her like a lifeline. "Eng, watches Rongi? You look like you've seen a ghost." Inside, the space was a riot of warmth. Shelves of glittering pendants, walls papered in faded flamenco posters, a kitchenette simmering with the aroma of garlic and saffron. They sank onto the worn sofa, Briella's curls tickling Emery's neck as she held her close. "Talk to me," she murmured, her brown eyes searching. The words tumbled out in a rush, the camera, the confrontation, Richard's horrified realization. Briella listened without interruption, her hand stroking Emery's back in slow, soothing circles. When the story ended, silence stretched, broken only by the distant strum of a guitarist in the square below. "Lo siento," Briella finally whispered, pulling back to cup Emery's face. "Your father. He must be scared. Losing control of the one thing he loves most." Emery laughed bitterly. "Scared? He's furious. And ashamed. Like I'm some scandal waiting to erupt." Briella's gaze softened, fierce protectiveness flickering beneath. "You're not a scandal, Emery Hale. You're a revelation. And if he can't see that, we'll make him." She kissed Emery then, soft, reassuring, a promise sealed in the quiet magic of their hidden world. But as they drifted into the night, tangled in sheets that smelled of lavender and sea salt, neither knew Richard was already en route, armed with a dossier that would unravel more than just secrets. Briella Navarro wasn't just a shopkeeper. She was the daughter of a disgraced Spanish diplomat, her family's fall from grace buried in tabloid whispers of embezzlement and exile. Richard's investigators had unearthed it all, and in his fear, he saw leverage, a way to save his daughter from a tainted love. Dawn broke over Marbella with a deceptive gentleness, the sun gilding the villa's infinity pool like liquid gold. Emery woke to the sound of waves, Briella's warmth beside her a fleeting comfort. They'd spent the night rebuilding what Richard had cracked. Stories swapped in the dark, dreams of a life beyond villas and vaults. But reality intruded with a knock at the door. It was Carlos, the estate manager, his face etched with apology. "Señorita Hale, your father arrived early. He's in the study. He requests your presence." "And a guest." Emery's stomach dropped. Briella stirred, sensing the shift. "Go," she said, squeezing Emery's hand. "I'll be right behind you." The study was a relic of colonial ambition. Dark woods, leather-bound tomes, a massive desk overlooking the groves. Richard stood by the window, back ramrod straight, a folder clutched in his fist. He turned as Emery entered, his eyes bloodshot from a sleepless flight. Dad. Emery. His voice was gravel. Sit. We need to talk about Ms. Navarro. Briella slipped in moments later, chin lifted defiantly, her sundress a splash of color against the room's austerity. Richard's gaze flicked to her, assessing, then hardened. Ms. Navarro, thank you for coming. I believe you know why. She met his stare evenly. Senor Hale, if it's about the camera, Emery told me. It's a violation. But I'm here because I love your daughter. Not to fight. Richard's laugh was hollow. He slid the folder across the desk. Love. Admirable. But let's discuss reality. Pages spilled out. Yellowed clippings from Madrid papers, photos of a younger woman, Briella's mother, led away in handcuffs, bank statements siphoned dry, whispers of a father who'd fled to Argentina, leaving debts and disgrace. Briella's face paled, but she didn't flinch. That's my history, not my heart. My parents' mistakes aren't mine. Emery snatched a page, horror dawning. Dad, what is this? Blackmail. Protection, Richard countered, voice rising. This woman comes from thieves, Emery. Her family's poison, embezzlement, flight. I won't let you tie yourself to that. End it now and I'll make it right. A fresh start. Anywhere you want. The room spun for Emery. Betrayal crashed over her like a rogue wave. Her father, the man who'd taught her integrity, reduced to this? You're no better than they are, she whispered, voice breaking. Spying, digging dirt. This is your legacy. Destroying what matters. Briella stepped forward, hand on Emery's shoulder. Senor, I won't let you bully us. I built my life from nothing, my shop, my art. Emery sees me, not shadows. Richard's facade cracked, exhaustion bleeding through. I see a girl who'll drag my daughter into ruin. Sarah would have wanted better. The name hit like shrapnel. Emery recoiled. Don't you dare use Mom. She'd hate this, your control, your fear. She loved freely, Dad. That's what she gave me. Tears welled in Richard's eyes, the first Emery had seen since the funeral. I'm trying to protect you. From heartbreak. From everything I couldn't save her from. Briella's voice cut through, soft but steel. Love isn't a risk you avoid, Senor. It's the only thing worth it. And if you push, you'll lose her. Not to me, but to the walls you've built. The standoff hung heavy, the air thick with unspoken grief. Richard sank into his chair, the folder forgotten. Leave me, he muttered. Both of you. They retreated to the courtyard, Emery trembling in Briella's arms. He won't stop, she sobbed. He'll bury you in lawyers' scandals. Briella tilted her chin up, eyes blazing. Then we fight. Together. Run the shop. I face worse, exile, judgment. But losing you? Never. As they walked the olive paths, plotting escapes and defiance, Richard watched from the window, the weight of his actions crushing. The camera had captured truth, but in his panic, he'd twisted it into a weapon. Now, staring at the life he'd nearly shattered, he wondered if salvation lay not in control, but in surrender. Days blurred into a tense standoff at the villa, the Andalusian sun mocking the chill that had settled over the Hale estate. Emery and Briella holed up in the guest wing, their sanctuary a sunlit bedroom with gauzy curtains fluttering like hesitant flags of truce. Mornings were stolen moments, Briella crafting wire-wrapped pendants at a makeshift bench, Emery sketching feverishly, her lines capturing the curve of Briella's jaw, the spark in her eye. But afternoons brought the shadow. Richard's silence, broken only by terse instructions to the staff, his presence a ghost haunting the halls. Emery's phone became a battlefield. Pleas from New York colleagues, veiled threats from Richard's lawyers couriered in unmarked envelopes. Non-disclosure agreements, one read, to protect family interests. She burned them in the courtyard fire pit, flames licking the pages as Briella watched, her expression a mix of pride and worry. He's cornered me, Amor, she said one evening as they shared tapas on the terrace. Men like him don't yield, they maneuver. Briella was right. Richard's maneuvers arrived via Elena, his assistant, who flew in with a polished smile and a proposition. Over coffee in the formal salon, she laid it out. A generous settlement for Briella, enough to expand her shop tenfold, relocate to Madrid, start anew. No strings, Elena assured, though her eyes said otherwise. Mr. Hale only wants Emery's happiness. Briella's laugh was sharp, echoing off the vaulted ceilings. Happiness? Tell him to stop treating love like a merger. I'm not for sale. Emery, eavesdropping from the hall, felt a surge of fierce adoration. She burst in, linking arms with Briella. We're done negotiating. Dad wants a war? He'll get one. Word spread through Marbella's expatriate circles like wildfire. Whispers in yacht clubs, sidelong glances at the mercado. Emery Hale, the reclusive artist, entangled in a family feud with the surveillance king. Richard, sensing the tide turning against him, doubled down. He summoned Emery to the study that night, the room dimmed to embers in the fireplace. This ends now, he declared, a contract thrust forward. Sign it. End this farce and the villa's yours. Unfettered. Emery scanned the legalese, her pulse thundering. It was a cage dressed as freedom. Stipends tied to appropriate partnerships, oversight on her associations. This isn't protection, Dad. It's ownership. He leaned forward, voice cracking with desperation. What do you know of loss, Emery? I watched your mother waste away, promising her the world while it slipped through my fingers. I won't watch you throw yours away on this delusion. Delusion. Emery's voice rose raw. Briella's real. She's steady when I'm storm-tossed, kind when the world's cruel. She's the daughter Mom would have adored, the one who'd bake empanadas and debate Matisse till dawn. Richard flinched, Sarah's ghost between them. And her family? The lies, the theft. Her family's past, Emery interrupted. Not her future. You've built an empire on second chances, Dad. Why deny her one? He turned away, shoulders slumping. Because it's you. My girl. The vulnerability pierced her. For a heartbeat, Emery saw the boy he'd been, orphaned in Queens, clawing to the top. Then trust me, she whispered. Like Mom trusted you. He didn't respond, but as she left, the contract lay unsigned on the desk, a small rebellion. Briella meanwhile faced her own ghosts. A late-night call from an old family friend in Seville. The Americans digging chica. Your father's name in the wind again. Sleepless, she wandered the beach at dawn, waves lapping at her bare feet, the moon a silver sickle overhead. Emery found her there, wrapped in a shawl against the chill. Can't sleep? Emery asked, settling beside her. Briella hesitated, then spilled it, the Navarro legacy, a diplomat's dream curdled by greed. Her father's flight when she was 12, her mother's trial splashed across headlines, the years of scraping by in hostels and odd jobs. I thought I'd outrun it, she admitted, voice small. But your dad. He makes it feel like yesterday. Emery pulled her close, the sea's rhythm sinking their breaths. You're not them. You're the woman who turned scrap silver into stars, who sees beauty in broken things. She paused, heart hammering. Marry me, Briella. Not to spite him, but because I want forever with you. Here now on our terms. Briella's eyes widened, tears catching the starlight. Emery. Yes. God, yes. They sealed it with a kiss, salt-tinged and fervent, the ocean bearing witness. But joy was fleeting. By morning, Richard's counterstrike landed. A press release hit international wires. Haletech Philanthropy announces support for LGBTQ+ youth in Spain, in memory of Sarah Hale. It was masterful peer damage control wrapped in benevolence. Time to undercut any scandal. Emery confronted him at breakfast, the table laden with untouched fruit. Clever, Dad. By forgiveness with checks. He met her gaze steadily. It's genuine. Sarah believed in second chances. Maybe I do too. Skeptical, Emery probed. For who? Me? Or your image? For all of you. He slid a key across the table. Not to a vault, but to a seaside cottage in Nerja, Sarah's favorite hideaway. Go there. With her. A week. No cameras, no conditions. Think. It was an olive branch, fragile as sea glass. Emery accepted, wary but hopeful. As she and Briella packed, laughter bubbling despite the undercurrent, Richard watched from the balcony, a new plan forming, not of control but confession. The cottage clung to Nerja's cliffs like a lover's promise, whitewashed walls kissed by bougainvillea. The Balcón de Europa mere steps away. For the first week it was paradise reclaimed. Mornings cliff diving into turquoise coves, afternoons lost in markets haggling for spices, Evenings on the terrace with guitar-strummed ballads and wine that tasted of sun-ripened grapes. Briella sketched designs inspired by the Alhambra's arches. Emery painted abstracts alive with their shared fire. Swirls of cerulean and crimson, evoking tangled limbs and whispered vows. Yet doubt lingered like mist off the sea. He's giving us space, Briella mused one night, her head on Emery's lap as stars wheeled overhead. But why now? Emery traced a pendant at Briella's throat. A silver heart etched with eternal. Maybe he's breaking. Or scheming. Their idyll shattered on day 5. A courier arrived with a package. Richard's handwriting on the label. Inside, a vintage projector and reels of Super 8 film. Home movies Emery hadn't seen since childhood. With trembling hands she threaded the first. Sarah, radiant at 30, chasing a toddler Emery through Central Park leaves. Richard, younger, softer, lifting them both in a bear hug. The films played in the cottage's dim parlor, flickering ghosts illuminating their faces. Laughter from a Thanksgiving table, Sarah's eyes twinkling over pie. A rainy Manhattan afternoon, the three of them building a fort from couch cushions. Then the harder cuts. Sarah's diagnosis, her hand frail in Richard's. Hospital vigils where he'd read bedtime stories to Emery, voice steady as stone. Briella held Emery through the sobs, the projector whirring like a heartbeat. He loved her so much, Emery choked. And lost her anyway. A final note accompanied the reels. Watch these. See the man I was, the one she loved. I'm trying, Emery. For you. Come back when you're ready. Dad. It was a crack in the armor, raw and real. They extended their stay, processing the gift not as manipulation but memory. Briella shared her own fragments. Letters from her mother, post-prison, urging resilience. A locket with her father's faded photo, a reminder of forgiveness unearned. You're brave, Emery told her, as they walked the promenade at sunset, facing it all. Briella smiled, windswept. We both are. And together, unstoppable. Back in Marbella, Richard dismantled the cameras himself. Wrench in hand, sweat beading on his brow, the villa's tech team stunned into silence. Elena found him in Emery's room, the clock smashed on the floor. Sir. It's done, he said, voice thick. No more eyes. Just hope she comes home. The return to the villa unfolded like a fragile détente, the air between Emery and Richard charged with the electricity of unspoken amends. Briella drove, her old Fiat rattling up the coastal road, Emery's hand in hers, the engagement ring. A simple silver band Briella had forged from sea-smoothed wire, glinting in the rearview. They decided on route. No ambushes, no ultimatums. Just truth laid bare like the exposed roots of ancient olives. Richard waited in the courtyard, sleeves rolled up, dirt under his nails from an uncharacteristic afternoon in the garden. He'd planted roses, Sarah's favorites, deep red blooms nodding in the breeze. Welcome back, he said, voice gruff, extending a hand to Briella first. She took it, firm and unflinching. Gracias, señor. The cottage was healing. His eyes flicked to the ring, a flicker of surprise, then something softer, resignation? Acceptance? Come inside. Lunch. The meal was tentative. Gazpacho chilled to perfection, fresh sardines grilled with lemon, conversation skirting the chasm. Richard asked about Nerja, the cliffs, the markets, his questions genuine if halting. Briella answered with warmth, sharing tales of her abuela's recipes, drawing parallels to Sarah's Midwestern pies. Emery watched, heart in her throat, as the walls thawed inch by inch. But drama festers in the subtext. That evening, as cicadas hummed, Elena arrived with urgent news. A board leak in New York. Hail tech stock dipping on rumors of personal instability. At the top. Richard's face tightened, the old mask slipping on. Damage control, he muttered, retreating to his study. Emery followed, Briella a step behind. Dad talked to us. Not past us. He whirled, exhaustion carving deeper lines. This isn't a vacation, Emery. My life's unraveling because of. Because of me? She pressed. Us. He deflated, sinking into his chair. Because I pushed too hard. The press release was a shield, but it's backfiring. Investors whispering about succession, ethics. And you, my heir, tied to complications. Briella stepped forward, voice steady. Complications? Try fiancé. Emery and I are getting married, senor. In Spain, under the sun your cameras couldn't touch. Richard's breath hitched. Married? Christ. He rubbed his temples, the room spinning with implications, tabloids, trusts, the empire's glare. But beneath a deeper fear, irrelevance. I need time. Emery knelt beside him, echoing the films. Time's what Mom didn't have. Don't waste yours hating what's real. He looked at her, then really looked, seeing Sarah in the set of her jaw, the fire in her eyes. I don't hate her, he admitted, glancing at Briella. Or you. I hate failing you. The confession hung, a bridge half built. Briella crossed it first. Then help us build, Richard. Not with money, with you. Over the following week, fragile routines formed. Richard joined them for walks along the beach, his strides sinking awkwardly at first, then easier. He shared stories of Sarah's wanderlust, their elopement in Vegas, her insistence on a sabbatical in Tuscany. Briella reciprocated with Navarro lore, sanitized but honest. Her mother's redemption through community work post-prison, letters of apology that mended more than money could. One afternoon in the villa's library, Richard pulled a dusty album from the shelves, Sarah's travelogues, filled with pressed flowers and scribbled poems. She wrote this in Granada, he said, handing a page to Briella. Love is the Alhambra at dawn. Intricate, enduring, defying gravity. Briella traced the words, eyes misting. Like us. Emery beamed, the moment a bomb. But conflict loomed, imported from across the Atlantic. A call from the board. Emergency meeting in Madrid. Hailtech's European HQ. Richard prepared to leave, but not before a bombshell. His investigators had uncovered a deeper Navarro thread. Not scandal but serendipity. Briella's father, long vanished, had resurfaced in Buenos Aires, seeking amends through a modest restitution fund. Anonymous until Richard connected dots. He confronted Briella privately in the rose garden. Your father, he's alive. And trying. Her face crumpled, joy warring with wariness. How? I didn't dig for dirt this time, Richard clarified. For answers. For family. He paused, vulnerable. Like mine. She nodded, tears falling. Thank you. But it's my bridge to cross. The revelation rippled, strengthening their bond. Emery and Briella planned their wedding in earnest, small on the cliffs, with local flamenco and Sarah's roses. Invites went to friends. Emery's artist circle, Briella's shop neighbors. Richard hovered on the periphery, contributing silently. A donation to a Marbella LGBTQ+ shelter, in Sarah's name. But climax brewed in Madrid. Richard flew solo, the boardroom a coliseum of suits and spreadsheets. Accusations flew. Personal distractions undermining focus. Heir apparents. Unconventional choices. Richard stood unflinching. My daughter's choices are her strength, not scandal. And mine? I've spied on my own blood. That's the real liability. Gasps echoed. He laid it bare. The cameras, the blackmail, his redemption arc. Hailtech watches the world. But family? That's private. I'm stepping back. Interim CEO to you, Elena. Time to learn from my daughter. Trust over surveillance. The room erupted, shock then nods. Stock ticked up on the mea culpa's authenticity. Richard emerged lighter, phoning Emery from the jet. Come to Madrid. All of you. Dinner. My treat. It was a turning point, but betrayal's echo lingered. En route, Briella's phone buzzed. An anonymous text. Navarro sins resurface. Hail knows all. Run. Panic surged. Was it a leak from Richard's old guard? Or her father's enemies? They arrived at the sleek Madrid high-rise wary, the restaurant's glass walls overlooking the Puerta del Sol's twinkling chaos. Richard greeted them with embraces, awkward for Briella but genuine. Over Jamon Iberico and Rioja he toasted. To new beginnings. And apologies overdue. Emery relaxed, but Briella's unease festered. Midway through she excused herself, slipping to the balcony. Emery followed. The text, it's poison, Brie. Dad's changed. Has he? Briella whispered, wind tousling her curls. Or is this another maneuver? Richard joined them, sensing the chill. What text? Briella showed him, his face darkening. Not mine. But I know the source, my former security chief. Fired him after the cameras. He's bitter. The truth spilled. a disgruntled ex-employee, selling scraps to tabloids, twisting Navarro history into fresh venom. Richard's eyes blazed. I'll end it. Legally. No more shadows. In that vulnerability, Briella saw not a titan but a man remade. Why help? After everything. Because, he said simply, you're family now. And family fights together. The night deepened into alliance plans hatched over dessert. Lawsuits, PR counters, a united front. As they drove back to Marbella under a canopy of stars, Emery and Briella held hands, the ring a talisman. He came through, Emery murmured. Briella smiled, tentative. Maybe miracles happen in pairs. But the Real storm gathered not in boardrooms but hearts. Back at the villa, Richard uncovered more. A letter from Briella's father, forwarded through his channels. Hija, I've watched from afar. Proud of your light. If Hale brings you this, no forgiveness starts with you. It was the betrayal's counterweight. Not ruin but reconciliation. Briella wept in Emery's arms, the past's chains loosening. Richard watched from afar, Sarah's words echoing. Let her fly. Wedding preparations infused the villa with a feverish joy, transforming the stoic estate into a canvas of celebration. Garlands of jasmine draped the arches, tables groaned under Catalan florals and Andalusian delicacies. A local band tuned lutes for a fusion of jazz and flamenco. Emery, in a gown of ivory silk that whispered against the stone floors, felt the weight of eyes. Friends from her New York days mingling with Briella's vibrant locals, a tapestry of lives intertwined. Richard moved among them like a penitent king. His tailored suit traded for linen shirt and slacks, a rose in his lapel. He'd insisted on walking Emery down the aisle. If you'll have me, he'd said, voice rough. She'd nodded, tears pricking. Briella, radiant in a gown embroidered with silver threads like her jewelry, waited on the cliffside altar, the Mediterranean a vast, approving witness. The ceremony unfolded at golden hour, the sun a benevolent monarch. Vows exchanged in bilingual cadence. Emery's promises of art in every dawn. Briella's of strength in every storm. Rings slid on. Emery's a gold band etched with olive leaves, Briella's matching the silver heart. As they kissed, cheers erupted, waves crashing in applause. But drama's shadow fell swift. Midway through the reception, as guests swayed to a sultry rumba, Richard pulled Emery aside to the villa's shadowed loggia. His face was ashen, a tablet clutched like a grenade. Emery. The leak. It's worse. She followed him inside, heart sinking. The screen glowed with a tabloid splash. Hale airs lesbian nuptials. From surveillance scandal to sham union? Navarro secrets exposed. Photos, stolen from the villa feeds pre-dismantling, juxtaposed with doctored Navarro files, insinuating fraud, entrapment. The byline, Victor Lang, Richard's ousted security chief. Briella joined them, drawn by the hush. What now? Richard's jaw clenched. Isu. Bury him. But the damage, stocks plummeting, boards panicking. Emery's world tilted. Our day. Ruined. No, Briella interjected fierce. Ours. Let them howl. We vow again, louder. The betrayal stung deepest for Richard, a mirror to his own sins. He confessed to the guests mid-feast, microphone in hand, voice steady. Tonight we celebrate love. Mine for my daughter, hers for Briella. And a lesson I've learned too late. Trust blinds brighter than any camera. Applause thundered, phones capturing not scandal but sincerity. Social media ablaze with Hale hearts, turning poison to panacea. Victor Lang's scheme crumbled by dawn. Arrested for hacking, his exclusives retracted amid lawsuits. Hale Tech stabilized, Elena at the helm, Richard transitioning to advisory, free to mend what mattered. In the quiet aftermath, as confetti swirled on the terrace, Richard approached the newlyweds. I'm proud, he said, enveloping them in a rare hug. Sarah would be too. Emery clung, forgiveness a quiet tide. Join us for breakfasts, Dad. Sundays. No strings. Briella added. And bring stories. We want them all. He nodded, eyes wet. Deal. Months later, the villa hummed with new rhythms. Richard's visits, laden with New York bagels and Sarah's recipes. Briella's shop expanding with Emery's designs, a line called Eternal Echoes. The past's wound scarred but healed. Briella reuniting with her father over cautious letters, Richard volunteering at the shelter, eyes open to stories like theirs. One evening as sunset bled across the sea, Emery and Briella stood on the cliffs, rings glinting. Instant wedding, Emery teased. But eternal life. Briella laughed, pulling her close. From cameras to this? Worth every frame. In the distance, Richard watched from the villa, a smile cracking his face. The billionaire who'd spied on love had found his own truth. In letting go, he'd gained everything. And in Spain's embrace under endless skies, 3 hearts wove into one flawed, fierce forever. Epilogue whispers, a year on, Hail Tech launched Vista Libra. Ethical surveillance tech. Profits funding global LGBTQ+ initiatives. Richard walked arm in arm with his daughters, the king of surveillance reborn as guardian of grace. Love, it turned out, needed no lenses, only light.